How well do you really show up for yourself? Let's talk about self-abandonment. What's up, y'all? My name is Elia. I'm a mindset coach. I talk candidly about my journey, as well as share tips to encourage growth and healing and uplift anyone who may struggle with feeling seen. So, self-abandonment. Put simply, it's neglecting yourself, and this can show up in a variety of ways. You may neglect needs. You may choose to ignore your values. You may choose to not practice self care or otherwise just ignore feelings, which are trying to tell you things and give you important information about how to process and navigate life. When you abandon yourself, you're suppressing your needs and really choosing to not prioritize yourself in a way where you actually get what you need to show up as the best version of yourself. And this obviously impacts your relationship with yourself, but it also has an external impact in how you show up in the rest of the world. Everything is linked, right? And with self abandoning ways or tendencies or behavior, I should say, you can really also categorize it as risky or self-destructive behaviors. And I know those words can sound kind of harsh or heavy, but the thing is, through self-abandoning tendencies, you are essentially chipping away at yourself and blocking your growth and blocking your ability to show up as the best version of yourself and flourish into that person. And again, this can show up through a variety of actual actions. It can look like people pleasing. It can look like perfectionism, perfectionism. It can look like self-deprecation, which can maybe just be your self-talk, which can go a lot deeper and actually manifest into more tangibly harmful things, such as drug use or really risky behaviors that may land you in prison or could otherwise just really threaten your quality of life and your actual life. Again, you get the point. This can show up in a lot of ways. And self abandonment is really rooted in trauma and learned behaviors. When someone might find themselves in a series or a constant state of traumatic events or just negative spaces, it's easy to then learn this or ingrain or internalize this belief that you are not worth more. And if other people are showing you that you're not worth more, at some point it's easy to believe that you are not worth more to yourself. And that's the large part of the root of self abandoning behaviors. And this really can keep you stuck in survival mode because believing that you're not worth more to yourself, then that doesn't really motivate you to give yourself more, which then can create situations that actually harm you, which then you have to fight to get out of. But then once you've actually fought to get out of that immediate situation, it can put you right back in that cycle of, okay, well, I'm not going to try any harder because the immediate threat is gone. And you just kind of bounce around in survival mode until you choose to change that dynamic with yourself and change your self talk, change your core beliefs, or challenge your core beliefs, whatever that may look like, because self abandonment really then gives room to the world around you to discount you and you accept it. So it's a very self reinforcing thing where it may start as it does start as an external thing, and then you can internalize it, and then the external world will reflect that to you, which you then believe as truth. So it can be a very hard habit or cycle to break, but as always, the beauty of it is it can be changed. You can change this narrative. So as always, I want to humanize this a bit and share a little bit about what this has looked like for me. And for me, self abandonment has largely looked like giving others what I didn't give myself. I am very value driven. I love to serve. I genuinely like to spread kindness and happiness and think life doesn't have to hurt as much as we often allow it to. And what that has looked like in the past was me really going out of my way to give onto others, but like just not even pouring into my own cup. And you know what they say, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? But oh, was I the master of that? And in relationships specifically, that looked like me hiding or shifting parts of myself to keep partners happy, or to otherwise just make people around me less uncomfortable. And I would tell myself that I didn't need much. And I would actually believe that. So then when people gave me less than the bare minimum, I'd be like, oh, this is cool. I can work with this. And I would keep myself in this situation, in these situations or these cycles of being overly responsible or overly compromising or over giving. And that made it hard for me to feel like advocating for myself was a safe thing to do, because I didn't do it. And when I did do it, or in certain spaces where I did do it, it maybe wasn't received so well through a combination of things. Maybe people just weren't willing or didn't have the intention to actually give me that space, but also people weren't used to me commanding that space. So it was very confusing. And I learned, or I realized that I, at some point, had confused or conflated sacrifice with compromise. I value compromise. It's something that I think is integral to the quality of human life. But sacrifice and compromise are not the same thing. So in valuing compromise, I would often put myself in situations where I had to self-sacrifice and abandon, and I had to learn to work away from that. So with that said, let me share a few tips that actually helped me and continue to help me do that work. First, I feel like it's really important to actively remind yourself of your worth. And you can do this through a variety of ways. I found that affirmations really help. So, listening to affirmations, writing affirmations, whatever that may look like, just affirming yourself intentionally and actively, repeatedly and consistently, that reprograms your brain, reprograms your nervous system, reprograms your subconscious over time, so that you actually cement these more affirmative and positive beliefs about yourself to challenge any negative beliefs that may have been there. And outside of that, or additionally to that, I think it's also really important to list out or get a clear sense of your needs and identify which are flexible and which are rigid or core needs. Not everything that you feel like you need is something you actually need. That's just kind of how life works. But it's important to know what you can compromise on and what you can stretch on, and where you can be a bit more flexible, and what you absolutely have to have in order to just like keep your sanity or keep your mental health or really stay grounded. You can't confuse the two. So it's important to figure out what the needs are, and then to figure out where that line actually exists between core needs and flexible needs. And then it's also important to really get a sense of the difference between compromise and sacrifice. Again, like I said, for me, at points that's something I confused. So I think these words can mean different things to different people. I'm sure we largely understand the definitions of both words, but in practice, what compromise looks like to me and what compromise looks like to you, we're probably going to mean different things. The same with sacrifice. So, just as it's important to get a sense of your needs, it's important to get a sense of what those two words mean for you and where that line between the two is. Life often comes with a lot of gray, don't get me wrong, but black and white meet somewhere. So, where is that? And lastly, I think it's really important to examine spaces and relationships that make you feel like you even have to self abandon. Are you around people where the only way to feel like you have any kind of positive interaction or intersection with them is to just completely forego your needs? Are you in environments where it just feels like you don't matter? I don't know. Look at these things, because these may not be the healthiest spaces for you, and may require you to either shift how you show up, or whether or not you even show up, or just make some kind of intentional decision about that. So I hope those tips do help you on your journey. And as always, I want to leave you with one reflective question. And today's question is, what's one thing that you can do to better show up for yourself today? Think about it.